Hello there. My name is Cameron Atkins, and this presentation is the EDF5003 reflection upon the Assessment 2 role play. What I really wanted to focus on in this discussion that we had was to ensure that we created an excellent connection and a trusting environment that requires you to forge an empathic counselling relationship. Empathy has a deep foundation within the human character, and it features the ability to astutely recognise, to understand and be able to sensitively share the thoughts and feelings of another person. Being attentive to their mood, as well as being sensitive and responding appropriately to their culture. The inherent skills in counselling, they include attentive and gently applied active listening, skilled reflection of emotions, and appropriate non-verbal cues and validating without judgment. That final point was quite relevant in the discussion that we had. Relating empathy to the role play, I employed a number of skills. That includes providing a welcoming introduction, delivering a supportive presentation, and with sensitive acknowledgement of their mood. The other element, which is quite important, is supportive body language and non-verbal communication. Even in an online session, it is important to provide those features. What that is packaged as is what is known as attentive modelling, and that is also supported by the use of active listening. It creates this environment of empathic rapport, and it creates that ability for the counsellor to be sensitive to how the client is feeling, and that they are inherently valued within the client-counsellor relationship. It ends up really being encapsulated by the term being with each other. The excellent connection that results from these foundations really engenders trust and the development of a comfortable environment for the client to feel comfortable about opening up and talk about their issues. One element that can be integrated into this opening up of the conversation are some of the skills from motivational interviewing. What was particularly relevant was the regular attention to validation. The client presented with an issue that was quite stigmatising, and it was important to be quite supportive. And as well as that, offering reflective responses to give them the feel that you're definitely listening to them and you're sensitive to what they're expressing. Moving on, two other micro skills that I employed that was quite relevant to this particular relationship and this session was appropriately open questioning. A key word in counselling is the employment of curiosity. It helps the counsellor to gain a better understanding and to delve into the complexities that are potentially part of this situation. as well as this, it is the appreciation that every interaction is unique, and the counsellor has the ability to be open to that. Again, the key word is curiosity. The other element to help with this open questioning is using the use of supportive verbal and non-verbal acknowledgement of what they are saying. One thing that was also very relevant to this particular interaction was the ability with care to challenge the client's negative view of themselves and aid them in the reframing of their thinking in a bid to make adjustments to their self-image and worldview, and with a view as part of a plan to get them to adjust those thoughts, which will then result in altered actions. What I did in this situation was to highlight the positive elements of what they were describing and providing them with positive things to latch onto rather than sitting with the negativity. And we talked about the real reward that would come about as a consequence of them achieving their goals. Again, it was one thing to really work on was the feeling of the client of being stigmatized. And it was really important to acknowledge their efforts and encourage them in their persistence at attending to this issue. And being welcoming and validating in this situation was really quite relevant to that. As far as the experience of the interaction, I felt that we had a great group of three that was very welcome, and we also had a diverse range of topics to talk about. The feedback I received was very positive, and even some of the bits where they suggested of some improvements were things that I really filed away. And, I acknowledge that, I could manage my reactions. But the issue I would really like to work on for myself as a consequence of this session is the better management of the timing of the session. In this case, 15 minutes, but 30 minutes or 60 minutes. It is important to develop that skill where you are venturing into the experience, where the initial intention is to establish the connection, open up the conversation, and ask questions, employ curiosity, and learn about their circumstance, validating their challenges and the positive elements that come out of that. Depending on the time frame, there will come a time where it's important to be reflecting, but then summarising, and then checking in with the client, whether they have any questions and whether they would like to continue the conversation into another session. From there, you set some goals, perhaps offer them some things that they can do in their own time before the next session, and then a plan for the next interaction that you have with each other. Thank you.